Afternoon, welcome to a grey and chilly Charente here in the southwest of France. I'm going to talk about electricity today, and I thought I would give you the heads up on my idea for my solar panel system. Now, I think this will be quite interesting for everyone to watch, because I'm pretty sure, especially the type of system that I'm thinking of doing or want to do, I'm pretty sure everyone at some point in the next couple of years is going to be offered some kind of little setup like this. My own electricity company suggests it to me quite regularly via email. So yeah, I'm pretty sure you're probably going to have something like this very soon. So yeah, I've got my whiteboard out, my trusty whiteboard. I'm going to try and explain to you what my idea is. And obviously on a tight budget. Everything I do is on a tight budget. And last week I got a package delivered from Germany, and I'll show you what I got delivered, part of the puzzle, if you like. Yeah, I'm just going to give it a bit of an explanation of how the house sits and what my reasoning is behind my kind of design. So the outside of my house, this is facing the garden. This main wall with the door to the workshop faces south, and the wall here, which is the side of my little bathroom extension, faces west, and you can see it now, it needs a coat of paint. So my idea is to buy two quite large solar panels and put one on that wall and one on that wall next to the door. These walls, that wall there is about 6 feet wide, and that wall there, the grey wall, that's just under 6 feet wide. So the solar panels that I'm looking at are about 6 feet tall. They're quite big, 440 or 500 watt. I haven't quite decided which ones to get. Yeah, 500 watt each. They're about 6 foot tall, over 3 feet wide, almost 4 feet wide, some of them. And they will fit, as I say, one on that wall and one on the grey wall, the side of the bathroom. And so the situation is here in parts of Europe. You have to do your own research. Electric companies, electricity supply companies, seem to be quite comfortable with people generating around 800 watts of their own power. And the system I'm looking at fitting, and part of it which I've already bought, you can generate your own power, and then from your unit, which I'll show you, plug it straight in to the wall. You have a lead, you plug it into the wall, and you generate your own power, and it goes into your house. And whatever your house is using will use that first, and it effectively would stop your electricity meter going round while you're generating electricity, unless you're obviously using more than you're generating. So yeah, electricity companies seem to be getting on board with the idea that people can generate their own power with a plug-in system. Now, they haven't really reached the UK yet, and I think they're reaching parts of America now. Very popular in Germany. As I say, up to about 800 watts. You can get kits, you can buy kits of 2,000 watt generating capacity, but you're probably entering the realms of trying to get permission from certain companies to do that. So I found a kit online that included 2 solar panels and one of these, which is a micro inverter. Basically, much heavier than I thought it would be, actually, and much bigger than I thought it would be. Basically, 2 solar panels get plugged into it, one on that side and one on that side, and this converts whatever voltage you put into it into something around 230 volts. They didn't include a lead, annoyingly. And then this will go to a lead, and you simply plug it into an outlet. Now, you should have its own dedicated trip switch for this plug socket that you plug this into. Yeah, but really simple system, and as I say, I think it's something that everyone is going to have to buy or have to have set up soon, or will choose to. Maybe not have to, but will choose to. Now, the kit that I saw online was about 350 euros plus postage, and you can buy a 500 watt solar panel for about 100 euros here. So I'm looking at 2 of those, so that's 200 euros. And I bought this for 70 from Germany for 79 euros. So altogether, that would be 279 euros instead of 350. And I'd still need to buy some cables, which is, I'll talk about cables in my next video when I talk about this, because obviously everyone's cable situation is going to be unique to their own house. So you can, this particular unit, I can have 2 520 watt solar panels or more, maybe 550, plug into this, and it will only, the maximum it will output is 800 watts. So you could put 2 400 watt panels and get 800 watts out of it, assuming you've got bright sunshine. Or you can buy two 500 watt solar panels or 520 watt solar panels, and it will still only output 800 watts. Right, so just going to do a little sketch quickly. I've got the side of my bathroom wall is like that, and then I've got the wall that I was just talking about like that, and that is the side of the house, and I've got my workshop door, let's say it's there. So my idea is to put a solar panel there on the wall and a solar panel here on the wall. So that one faces west and that one faces south. So the sun, this time of year, the sun's very low. It's January 2026. The sun obviously rises in the east, and it sort of does that. And in the summer, obviously the sun goes really, really high. It kind of does that. Oh, and obviously in the summer, the sun's really, really high. So this panel here facing south is only really going to get sunshine early in the morning, and this panel here is not going to get any sunshine at all until late in the afternoon. So something I've seen quite a lot of people have loads and loads of solar panels on their roof of their house. Now, unless you've got a way of storing that power with batteries, it kind of seems like a bit of a waste of time, and you're actually generating electricity for the electricity company. So I've kind of looked at the amount of power my house uses, and it doesn't really use that much. I've got my hot water, which I heat from around 6 PM to 8 PM. That uses about 5,500 watts, something like that. I've got my fridge, and I've got my dehumidifier, and they don't use very much at all. They probably use about maybe 100 to maybe 200 watts, say, yeah, 200 watts each per hour. And obviously the fridge clicks on and off, dehumidifier clicks on and off. And obviously in the summer, when you're getting most electricity, you're not using any heating. So I do use some heating, but I'm not using heating during the day with electricity. So my daily usage is very, very low. So if I'm generating, say I've got 500 watts maximum from that panel, 500 watts maximum from that panel, only one panel is going to be generating much electricity either time, because obviously the sun's coming from this direction in the morning and this direction in the evening. So the most I'm going to generate, the most I can generate is 800 watts, because that's what all that unit will allow to be put into the house. So I'll never use more than 800 watts of power at any one time. So really, ideally, I would have 200 watt panels all the way around in some kind of arc. So you'd be continually generating groups of 200 watts from morning, like 6 AM in the summer, until 9 PM. That would be the ideal, wouldn't it? And then you'd probably generate, what, 15 hours, you generate 3 kilowatts of electricity. So I've been doing a bit of reading, and an 800 watt system, which is all I can generate, can generate up to around 800 kilowatt hours a year. Now, I've been doing a little bit of research, and I keep all my data for all my electricity usage on the computer, and I've been monitoring it from April 22 to March 25. So I've got those first 3 years, my first 3 years of electricity usage. And each year, the first year I used 4,171 kilowatt hours. The next year I used 4,247, and last year I used 3,988. The reason I used less last year is because I started heating my living room with gas. So on average, I'm using 4,000 kilowatt hours of electricity per year. Now, this system I'm looking at putting in can generate 800 kilowatt hours, roughly. You know, it remains to be seen, which is 20%, which is 20% of what I use. So this little system that should cost me around 300 euros will generate 20% of the power that I use. Now, the 4,000 kilowatt hours of electricity that I use, roughly, cost me 13.47 in the first year, 11.44 in the second year, and 1,070 euros last year. So I use roughly 1,000 euros of electricity a year, roughly. So 20% of that is 200 euros. So this system that's going to cost me 300 euros or thereabout to fit is going to save me 200 euros a year in electricity. So with these figures, I'm looking at it's going to pay for itself in 18 months, assuming it does produce 800 kilowatts. So then, obviously, it takes me 18 months to pay it off. After that 18-month period, I'm getting 200 euros of free electricity every year, and my output and my expenditure's only been about 300 euros. So obviously, there's cables to buy, fittings to buy, and it might come to 350 euros. So it should definitely pay for itself within 2 years. So ideally, you wouldn't put solar panels straight on a wall. You'd normally see them, if you see them, you see them on the roof of houses, on the roof of buildings. You see them a lot on farm buildings here, on barns, etc. But I'm trying to keep costs down. Now, when you start messing about putting solar panels on roofs, these panels are quite big. As I say, they're over 6 foot tall, nearly 4 feet wide, and they weigh about 25 kilos. Quite a big deal. And I want to try and do this by myself. And every time you introduce an extra, the cost goes up of fitting the kit, doesn't it? So it takes longer to pay it off. So my idea is I'm going to generate most of my electricity when the sun's low. And so this is facing south, and the sun comes over the barn in the morning. And right now, even in January, when the sun shines, by about 9 AM, the side of the house is getting some sunshine. And then the sun goes around, and this week, there's a period in the winter when the sun doesn't go much above that tree, that great big oak tree. There's two there actually. So yeah, comes across the sky, skims the top of that, and yeah, this week it's just started to stay above the oak tree, and then the sun goes all the way round and then sets in the west. And when it sets in the west, or just before it sets in the west, the sun comes across the top of this hedge and hits the side of the house, of the grey wall on the side of the house. Ideally, you'd have them on a roof, as I say, but you can get into situations where you've got to talk to the mayor, you've got to get planning permission, possibly, depending where you are. And obviously, putting a solar panel on a roof, you know, not for the faint-hearted. So I'm kind of thinking, keep costs down. Can I save myself 200 euros a year on my electricity for the outlay of around 300 euros, probably 350 euros. That's my thinking. I'd love to hear from you if you've done something like this. Have you messed about with these plug-in? They're called plug-and-play systems. Obviously, you fit it, you plug it in, and you kind of forget about it. That little gadget that I bought, that micro inverter, it will talk to a cell phone, it will talk to a mobile phone with an app. And I've got an old phone, I can put an app on and you can monitor how much electricity you use. So for me, the low cost, simple idea is to put one panel there facing south, one panel there facing west. My only concern is, or one of my concerns is, this wall here in the summer gets absolutely astronomically hot, like super hot. You can't actually sit there. It gets well over 50 degrees, which is about, what, 120 degrees Fahrenheit. So you can't actually sit there, but apparently solar panels can cope with that. And I've got to put that micro inverter somewhere. If I've got one panel there and one panel there, obviously those solar panels need to be plugged into the micro inverter somewhere. And I've got a little hole above there's a window there. That wall is about 2 feet thick. And I'm thinking, I wonder if I could put the micro inverter in there and then run a cable down the outside of the house. I've got a 2 feet overhang of my roof, and that pipe in the corner there is the vent pipe for my septic tank. I could run a cable down there, and just behind this wall, about there somewhere, is my fuse box, which is in the extension, which is kind of handy really, because I can just run the cables under the roof, under the overhang of the roof, drill a hole here and plug it straight into, I've got a plug socket that my washing machine is plugged into at the moment, under my fuse box, my trip switch fuse box, which is in the bathroom. So it's really convenient. So that's what I'm looking at right now. Yeah, I'd love to know if you've done this or if you're thinking of doing it. Yeah, it's a fascinating little project. And the idea that I can save a couple of hundred euros a year, every year, for the next 20 years, for the outlay of 350 euros this year, seems like a bit of a no-brainer. I do also have an idea to build another pergola. I've got a pergola there, or gazebo, whichever you prefer. Build one there, because that actually doesn't really work particularly well for keeping the sun off of you in the summer. It's not deep enough. So I'm thinking about building another one there, and maybe I could put the solar panels on it, and maybe they could be flat facing, or near enough flat facing the sky. I think no matter where you put your solar panels, they have a perfect time of day. Even if you've got them perfectly aimed at the sun, there's still only going to be a certain window where they're absolutely working at their best. So whether that's flat on a wall, laying flat on the ground. I mean, I've seen YouTube videos of people putting them flat on the ground and getting fantastic results. And obviously in the summer, the sun goes almost straight up and across. So a flat on the ground panel, or flat on the roof panel, would do very well as well. So anyway, this is my idea. I don't think there's any point in producing 2,000 kilowatts of power every single hour when you see houses covered in solar panels, unless you've got batteries to store that energy, because if you're not using it while you're producing it, you're just giving it back to the electricity company, and I'm pretty sure they're getting it for nothing, because I'm not sure they're actually paying much for their electricity that you're providing them now. All the rules have changed. So you only really want to produce the power that you're using. Now, I use 5,500 kilowatts to heat my hot water tank, kilowatt hours, which is quite a lot. But I need that in a 2-hour window, and I couldn't possibly produce 5,500 kilowatt hours. No, 5.5 kilowatt hours, 5,500 watts hours in 2 hours. I couldn't produce that without loads and loads of panels. So it's definitely a compromise, and the idea is to save a little bit of money. It's not a lot. You're talking about saving 3 or 4 euros a week in electricity, but it adds up across the year, and across 18 months I should have paid for it. Anyway, love to hear from you. Let me know what you think about my idea. I've obviously got my first part of my puzzle from Germany, and I need to decide what solar panels to buy. The solar panels start off around 70 euros each, plus delivery. Delivery is around 20 euros each. That's for a 400 and something watt panel. So the price of solar panels has dropped dramatically, and for around 100 euros delivered, I can buy a 500 watt solar panel. which is amazing. So I'm looking at buying 2 solar panels, somewhere between 400 and 500 watts, do a bit of research, and hopefully they'll be delivered soon. This is going to be an ongoing project, and it's going to need to flex a little bit, this project, because this wall here, I do have ideas of cladding that with something. But yeah, I'm concentrating on this idea for the time being. Yeah, let me know what you think. Love to hear from you. Say hello in the comments and I'll see you soon.